Okay, good evening, everyone. Calling to order the Borough of Saraville Planning Board meeting for March 4th, 2026. Beth, has this meeting been advertised in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act?
Yes, Vice Chairman, it has.
Can you please do a roll call?
Mr. Candell?
Here.
Ms. Larman? Here. Mr. Mueller?
Here.
Mr. Shaw?
Here.
Ms. Sataka? Here. Mr. Velosan? Mr. Williams?
Here.
Council President Zabrowski?
Here.
Chairman Tai. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Beth.
Mhm.
Any resolutions for memorialization?
We have two, but we'll start with the first one. Planning Board number 2503, Caravan LLC, preliminary and final site plan with C variances, block 277, lots 1 through 5, 13 and 14.
Thank you. Do we have a vote on a motion for acceptance of the resolution?
Motion to accept.
Take a roll call. Mr. Candell?
Yes.
Ms. Larman?
Yes.
Mr. Mueller?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Ms. Sataka? Mr. Velosan? Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Council President Zabrowski?
Yes.
Thank you.
Beth, are there any minutes for approval?
Done this evening.
Anything on the communication agenda?
Done this evening.
Any site plan subdivisions?
We have one hearing. It's the amended housing element and fair share plan, Borough of Saraville, fourth round, dated February 26th, prepared by Acuity Consulting Services.
Okay. Who's here from Acuity?
I am Dan Levin.
Right.
Dan Levin. Thank you. Dan Levin, Director of Technical Services, AICP PP for Acuity.
Thank you, Mr. Levin. The floor is yours on the presentation.
Thank you, everyone. So, good evening, everyone. Today I am here to present the amended housing element and fair share plan for the Borough of Saraville. This will be submitted to the program and is incorporating all the changes that have occurred since the first plan was adopted back in June. What has changed since the plan was previously adopted? The submission to the program, Fair Share Housing Center challenged the borough's plan on a variety of criteria. Saraville was not unique to this challenge. Fair Share Housing challenged virtually every single plan across the entire state. Following that challenge, mediation was entered into between the Borough, Fair Share Housing, overseen by special adjudicator Beth McManus and also Judge Mary Jacobson. The Borough, through the course of that mediation process, reviewed its plan, and comments from the special master, Fair Share Housing, and also consultation with the borough and Acuity as planners, and has made some fairly significant changes to the plan that is in front of the board this evening. The main changes to the plan, starting from the top, is the borough is no longer taking what's called a vacant land adjustment. So the obligation of, I think it's 240 units that was previously revised down, saying that there was not enough vacant land within the municipality. After working with staff at Sarah and looking at the potential for there to be a larger transit village development, which I'll get into in a moment, we realized that there did not need to be a vacant land adjustment. The borough could actually meet and potentially exceed its obligation just by redevelopment across the borough alone. So rather than claiming that there is not a lack of land and rather than having an unmet need, the borough has eliminated that aspect of the plan and is now going to meet its entire 240 unit obligation with new construction. Additionally, there were some comments from the special adjudicator about the feasibility of the accessory apartment program that was used for crediting for the third round. No units were created with that program to the third round. We looked at that a little more closely, whether or not to continue that through the fourth round, and saw that there were additional compliance mechanisms that we think would be a better fit rather than carrying through that program into the fourth round and possibly beyond. So that has also been removed and substituted for additional compliance mechanisms. The Mako site which was the subject of, I believe it was a referendum, or at least a discussion on a referendum from council. That has also been removed. That site is no longer needed, again, with the Transit Village designation. There also, the Raritan Street Park and Ride compliance mechanism has been removed in part. So whereas before the Raritan Park and Ride was one of the mechanisms, now the area surrounding that as part of the Transit Village designation. So technically, it still is in the plan as one of the sites that is included in the larger Transit Village, but it specifically has been removed from this. So now we have the Transit Village, which is a large area surrounding the Raritan Street Park and Ride. And then there's also a new compliance mechanism, an expansion at the Gillette Towers site, which was previously an unmet need mechanism. Now that's been pulled forward to a fourth round redevelopment, realistic development potential, RDP. And also the Lakeview compliance mechanism, which was previously in the unmet need component of the plan, I believe, that has also been removed. So there's been some substantial changes. So moving into the summary of the obligations. So this is the prior round. There has been no change to the prior round compliance mechanisms that's established. Next slide, please. At the bottom, Ernston Road, that is a site in the southern portion of the municipality that is a potential redevelopment area. The borough is committing within the plan for there to be a 60-unit development with a set aside of 20%, so 12 affordable housing units. That's 2 units more than the accessory apartment program. So the accessory apartment program has been deleted from the third round, and these units, when built, would be applied to the third round compliance. Next slide. And then this is the fourth round compliance mechanism. So if every single development that is currently within the third round gets built, there would be 9 credits that would carry over into the fourth round. In addition, there's Gillette expansion. Mobility special care, that's a new compliance mechanism. Technically, the borough had previously committed to do a special needs project. We actually found that one had recently been completed. I think it was in 2023 or 2024. Mobility special care was established within the borough. It is a licensed special needs facility. We have the documentation. We believe it is creditworthy in submitting that to the program. So essentially, it's a one-for-one trade, that there is special needs, and the borough won't need to spend trust fund money to create those units. And then there's the Transit Village, which the borough is committing to a minimum of 173 affordable housing units. That's at a 20% set aside from the larger developments that some were, I think it was like 800 some odd units. 56 bonus credits for a total of 225 and a half, and there must be a rounding there, to meet the entire obligation for the municipality. And this map shows, it's kind of hard to see from here, but you can see farther down, there's the Ernston Road site in red, and then that large green area to the east of the Garden State Parkway, that's the Transit Village location, directly south of the National Lead site. And those are the substantive changes to the plan.
Okay, any planning board members have any questions regarding the amendments to the plan?
The Transit Village again, where is that?
It,
I know you're saying it's south of the National Lead site, but like, what street is it on?
could you
Is
bring,
that behind Costa Verde where? Yeah, okay, that's all I need to know.
Want me to pull back up or no?
yeah, if you want to pull it back up, yeah.
Mr. Levy, can you also explain, because I know you mentioned it, but kind of explain the process and like the borough officials and the professionals that were involved in this process, because I think we kind of lose track that this is a fairly complicated process, and it takes a great deal of study and decision-making to get to this point. And based on, I guess it's based on trends, it's based on information, it's based on a lot of data that you compile along with the rest of that group. It just, you can kind of explain that, because sometimes to us, it's like, how did you get there?
I will do the best that I can. It's a very, sorry. I'll do the best that I can. It's a very, very long and, as you know, complicated process. Essentially, from the first submission, or I guess the receipt of Fair Share Housing's challenge, Acuity and borough staff and borough attorney Joe Sordillo, we all got together and sort of discussed how we can best, address the concerns of Fair Share Housing, and what the position of the borough is relevant and related to its obligation. We had multiple mediation meetings, I want to say at least 3, and each one was very productive. We met, I believe it was Josh Bowers, was the attorney from Fair Share that we engaged with mediation on, and Joe and Josh had a very professional working relationship. We were all sort of trying to get to a point, certainly to avoid litigation, and wanted to essentially meet the obligation within the best interest of the borough. So we were all sort of discussing, working that together in a collaborative approach. The decision to revise the plan as substantially as it was sort of a last minute, if you can believe it, kind of gift that essentially fell into our laps with the Transit Village designation. We had been speaking with Vina over at Sarah, and there had been a primary issue with the Raritan Street Park and Rides feasibility. There was raised concerns about whether or not that project was in fact feasible as related to the realistic development potential. And as we spoke more with Vina, we realized that it wasn't just the park and ride that they were looking at the broader area of the Transit Village. When we asked the question of how big is it, and the answer was huge. And at which point it was, we can try to piecemeal all of this together with all of these different compliance mechanisms, try to minimize the amount of, impact across the borough, or not minimize the impact across the borough, but try to compile all of these things and try, thread this needle that would satisfy Fair Share Housing, the special adjudicator, the judge, or considering that the municipality was in favor of developing this large area, creating a redevelopment plan for such a large area, for such high density, it seemed to make sense for all involved, as we all discussed it together, to in fact just get rid of all of the different mechanisms and trade them for one, especially from, going through the redevelopment process. The feasibility of that certainly satisfied Fair Share Housing, because it's less of reliant on individual market actors and more a function of the municipality, declaring the area in need of redevelopment and working with NJ Transit. And NJ Transit has been supportive of this. They've submitted a letter of support. So with that, we had essentially come to the decision that we should make these changes and streamline in a sense the plan. And the good news for the borough as well is, rather than with a vacant land adjustment and having an unmet need and potentially carrying all of these non-built units into the 5th round 10 plus years from now, The borough is in a position, if everything comes to fruition, to actually have excess credits heading into the fifth round, which will reduce its overall obligation. Again, we don't know how everything is going to change between now and the fifth round. But there is a real substantial benefit to not taking the vacant land adjustment and going about directing future residential development in this manner.
Thank you.
Mr. Levitt, to follow off Councilman's question, just for overall, for people who may not be familiar with this, our borough is required to fulfill a 240 unit requirement from the state, correct?
Yes.
And I won't go into where that derives from, the Mount Laurel case and legislation, and there was a whole bunch of municipalities who challenged it in court, and they went up to the U.S. Supreme Court recently, and that was denied. So the municipality challenges are over, correct? Your understanding?
As far as I'm aware, yes.
And this 240 unit, this was a settlement between the borough and Fair Share Housing?
That's correct. It was I think the initial obligation that came out of DCA, I think was like 270. The borough came back and did a lack of land availability, land capacity. That's what it was, land capacity analysis. Challenge that came in, I think it was at 210, and the two parties settled at 240, I believe.
So it was a settled number. Fair Share wanted us to develop 270 plus units. We wanted less, and it was a mediation with Judge Jacobson, I presume, right?
Yes.
Okay. So these are units that we have to build. And for a lot of people look at this process and say, well, why don't you just build 240 affordable units? Why don't you find? The reality is that developers don't come in just to build affordable units. It's normally part of a slew of market rate units, and then they agree to provide the affordable units as part of that, correct?
In part, there are a number of options that could be done. There is the methodology that you're talking about, private developers coming in, they build 100 apartments, and then the set aside ordinance requires them to build a percentage of that as affordable. There is the potential to build 100% affordable projects. CIS has done one. I believe it's called The Place at Sayreville. To build that many units, you need a ton of money or a ton of land, and the borough does not have either at its disposal to meet that obligation. So, and we looked, the borough's trust fund is substantial, but not substantial enough to provide a subsidy on that scale for that many units, and the amount of land that it would take as well. The borough just does not have that much land to give for 100% affordable developments on that scale.
And the amendments that your firm drafted, that's the most feasible plan for the borough, correct, to meet this need?
We believe so.
Okay. And just so we're clear, the amendment, it's outlined in your report, the amended housing plan element and fair share plan for the fourth round 2025. But just to be clear, the reports establishes that the amendment's consistent with the goals and objectives of the borough's master plan, correct?
Correct.
And that the adoption and implementation of the amendment is in the public interest?
Yes.
And it protects the public health, safety, and promotes the general welfare?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Anyone else from the board?
Just one more
Yep.
question. Would there have been an option to use I guess the trust fund to buy credits from some of the apartment complexes that we have in town?
Potentially. Market to affordable programs, like you're describing, there is an option. How feasible that option is difficult. Your subsidy for even a moderate unit apartment is north of $150,000 cash on the barrelhead. That does not include your administrative costs and other soft costs associated with that. And that also does not include getting somebody to actually agree to do that. So I've run programs for another organization, and we were offering, north of $100,000. This was a few years ago, it was before, just shortly after COVID. We didn't get any takers when the market was even better. And there's a lot of people who are, shy about the 30-year deed restriction. If they're, owning they're landlords and things like that, they don't have a deed restriction, which would have to be part of that. So, yes, in theory, it is possible, but the practicality of it, particularly for rental, is extremely challenging.
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions by the board?
Yeah, the place that CI is built, is that affordable housing?
Yes, it is.
Is that accounted for in the,
Yes, it's in the third round.
third round? Okay, thank you.
And all 88 units are affordable housing, correct?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay, I'm just looking.
With projects like that, there may be a caretaker unit, and whether or not that caretaker unit is included in the count it's kind of a very gray area as far as the regulations are concerned. But the borough got 88 credits for it in the third round. We're taking 88 credits into the fourth.
Anyone else? No? Okay, I take a motion to open the public.
Motion open public.
Your second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Anyone from the public like to be heard?
The record, James Byrne.
Oh, sorry. That's better. James Burns from the law firm of Dembo Brown and Burns. We represent the owner of the property located at 3553 Washington Road. It's also known as block 335.01, lot 3 on your tax maps. You may know it as the former Rite Aid property. This property is not at all large. It's not a large property. It's roughly 2 acres, 2.4 acres in size. It is also uniquely shaped. It's shaped like a triangle or a pie wedge, which serves to limit the development of that property. With the chair's permission, I have, if I can hand out just a land description, which I think properly identifies exactly what I described for this property. And maybe we can mark that into the record. I don't know how you want to mark it, if it's A1 or O1, whatever. A1, thank you. So I think you could plainly see the odd pie wedge shape of the property and the development limitations of the property. That Rite Aid building that exists there is roughly 14,000 square feet. And it's our opinion that the property is simply not suitable for residential housing, affordable or otherwise, given its size, shape, and location. It is, however, a viable commercial property. And I wanted to make this planning board aware that the property is subject to an existing lease with a company known as Samex Properties. And that as of this morning, it is also the subject of what we believe will be a by right variance-free site plan application to convert the Rite Aid building into a full-service car wash. And we look forward to presenting that application to you in the very near future. Wanted to state on the record, and it was direct to my client to state on the record, they really have no interest in entering into any redevelopment agreement for the property as called for under the borough's January 15th, 2026 mediation agreement with Fair Share Housing. I do a lot of municipal land use work. I understand what it's like to deal with Fair Share Housing, so my sympathies are with you. But I've also been instructed to state for the record that my client opposes the plan as it pertains to this property, 3553 Washington Road. And we're requesting that this specific property, 3553 Washington Road, be excluded from the plan. And with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I just would like to leave my contact information with your secretary in case there is the need for any follow-up. Happy to talk to anybody that would be interested in discussing it further, but we felt we needed to get this on the record. It is, as I indicated, a very small property, and we were somewhat surprised that it was even being considered as part of this plan, given its size and location. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to the attorney for the applicant, who will be presenting the car wash application for the property.
Thank you, Jim. Tyler Prime, firm of Prime Duvel and Maselli. As indicated, I represent Spotless Flagship, which is the proposed user for the Rite Aid building. Spotless Flagship's model is to, first and foremost, come where they're wanted. They don't want to fight uphill. This site, as presently zoned before the redevelopment or any other overlays, is a conforming site for a car wash. It's zoned commercial. It fits the bill of what they're looking to do. They repurpose these buildings. They're able to make use of the existing building with their new car wash improvements. So the site plan application was submitted this morning. It does have a few variances. They're de minimis. There's some sign relief and other things, but otherwise, the site's a perfect fit for them. From a circulation standpoint, they're very excited to be here. It works really well, and their concern as a leasee of the site is that down the line, as indicated, potential later fourth round, fifth round, if it does come to a point where, you know, this became a condemnation or something like that, they're worried about investing the sum of money that they need to do this work and then have issues with the site down the line. So they're also, we share the same concern. We're interested in having the site excluded from the plan, as you've heard, that the site owner has no interest in participating in the plan. Thank you.
I mean, how would the exclusion of this lot impact?
That's what I was trying to look. I don't believe that we considered that site in the overall yield. I believe that we had excluded that. I believe that we had considered that to be left over for commercial purposes for that exact reason. Its location, awkward shape. I believe I'd have to go back and take a look at exactly what we thought the yield would be. My guess is that it was 0. So having that excluded from, having a housing yield, assuming that's the case, is a non-issue because we didn't consider it in the first place. As far as the larger redevelopment aims and objectives of the borough, that would, be a discussion between the borough, Sarah, property owner there, for those purposes. But as far as the housing is concerned, if there is a small impact, it could potentially be absorbed across the other sites that were identified for residential. Given you said it's 10,000, how large is the lot?
Approximately 2.4 acres. But
Yeah,
it's like a pie, like we said, a triangular kind of pie wedge shape. So
Yeah, even at 20 units, if you did 20 units an acre there, I can't imagine because we were looking at 25 to 30 units an acre across all of the sites, and they had to be substantially large enough or to be amalgamated to be that. I do not believe that was considered for residential. But even if it was, you're talking, at 25 units, 50 units, 10 units, which, could be absorbed across the other locations through the increase of density. But yeah, I don't believe that was the case, but I'd have to look into that. Yeah.
Okay.
Some way we could get some type of confirmation of that, because we're in a situation as the property owner where we have a tenant, a nervous tenant that would like to proceed. If we could get something to indicate that it's not being looked at for housing purposes, as you've indicated, or something that your solicitor feels would be something that could be put forward and presented to us that we could share with the tenant, that would go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Just to be clear, it's not part of the amendment that property. It's not.
The property is identified within the plan, but it's not obligated. So the area overall, so for example, you're spotting an area, but if somebody if through the redevelopment process, right, a site comes out, but the overall yield is still the same, there's no need to amend the plan. If the entirety of the site were to disappear and would need to be, relocated somewhere else, then yes, there would be, that'd be a substantial change. We'd have to amend the plan, everything else. But one site not being included for housing, if the overall yield across the rest of it is still the same, there's no issue with that.
Okay, so I guess we have two issues. When I say two issues, we have the amendment that we're putting up for a vote on approval tonight, which is the fair share housing element. And then I guess there's an issue of whether that property is in a redevelopment area, which that's not really before us right now.
Correct.
You have to go back to Sarah if they wanted to take their property out of the redevelopment area. But we understand the concern, but we can approve the plan and stipulate that that property is not included in the fair share housing element amendment.
Yeah, absolutely. These things happen all the time. Sites drop in and out all the time. As long as, again, the overall number, and if through the redevelopment plan process, the minimum yield does not change, there should not be an issue.
Just to be clear, with regard to our plan to meet our affordable requirements, the borough is not going the eminent domain route like some other municipalities try to do, especially in, Cranberry with the farm. That's not happening here in our plan, right?
My understanding is this is non-condemnation redevelopment.
Just to chime in on that, I think the risk we see is it is non-condemnation now, but the mediation agreement contemplates redevelopment agreements with each of these landowners. So as you go down this list, if these landowners say no, at some point, fair share in the courts, I don't know how much available land you have, may lose their patience with that. And that's where the risk comes in. It's come in throughout the states. That's a concern that we see.
But this is, that property is part of the technical agreement with fair share that was mediated by Judge Jacobson, or?
Well, that property is included. So the mediation agreement, I have to look back at it. This specific site is part of, so I wish Joe was here, because he would know you'd know that. I'd have to go back and look specifically at the mediation agreement, but this site is part of the plan that is being submitted, but that does, it's not, it's not that it can't be, it's almost like a good example, allow me to explain this. When we were considering the Mako site, for example, the entirety of the site was identified as affordable housing, but there was a lot of it that was covered in floodplain. So not all of that site could actually create the housing that we needed to. There would be a similar situation in this case where you have a large redevelopment area. Perhaps there's aspects of it that can't be developed or don't want to be developed or, should be excluded as we go down this process. That's not going to negatively impact the mediation agreement. That's not going to negatively impact the plan or its acceptance by the program or any of that.
That was my concern. We're not going to be in breach of any mediation agreement carve this property out. But my understanding would be that if they want to be out of a redevelopment area, we don't have that authority to move their property out of a redevelopment area. That would be Sarah.
Right. Yeah. And
Okay.
I don't, without the mediation agreement in front of me, I don't want to say with absolute certainty, but that being said, I would be extremely surprised if this one piece were to completely, contradict the mediation agreement.
What can we do at this moment to alleviate this situation without running afoul of the mediation process?
Yeah, I mean, you don't often see a housing of the fair share fund literally amended on the spot.
Yeah.
Very meeting, but and it's also hard for the board to and kind of find statement about what little and will have property. But I think, you received the sense of the, board and there's no interest in this property, and, being part of the, housing on the fair share plan that will be developed as part of it. And, perhaps the board, could return with, at some point, amended housing on the fair share. But I'm not sure there's a legal mechanism for the board to say, we are now binding ourselves to this. I think it has to be done in the context of, a housing element and fair share. And unfortunately, because this had to be noticed, question whether or not you just pull something out and ask them to. At the end of the day, but I think it really matters whether or not pulled out, as to, the housing open fair share plans legality. No, I don't think so. I think you can carve it out, but I guess the question is, you're voting on a plan. What does it look like? Is the actual plan in front of you? You can take that out. Are you deleting X line of, page, whatever?
Yeah. I think what we're doing is just excluding that one lot and block and correct me if I don't know the process correctly, but this has to be finally, the final action has to be taken by mayor and council, does it not? So can you recommend and pass this resolution with a recommendation that this one lot and block be excluded? And then they can take that step to exclude that property. So it would be based on your motion to exclude it for the reasons we've discussed tonight: size, shape, location.
There's no reason why the board this say at the same time we recommend that that this be removed from it. Of course, I guess we need to change the resolution or etc. I guess that's.
That would be acceptable. And then we have some comfort level going forward that we can, develop this property for the benefit of not just obviously all of us, but all of you as well.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that, the law of unintended consequences, that we do something here and it sort of triggers a chain reaction with fair share and the agreement that was reached at mediation. I don't want this to torpedo that in any way. I think you know what the board, or at least what my feelings are. There's no intent to, use eminent domain to try to force the property to be used for this purpose.
Yeah, and I wasn't involved in the fair share litigation at all. So I don't know exactly what it would I guess one thing I do have is to simply say what we recommend that this be looked at further by the council. But I think we have to, Dan, I think the question for you is if there's a lot we're not in, what do you think the kind of trickle down effects would be?
The most substantial effect would be we need to look at the site suitability for increased density at the other locations, whether that be Ernston Road, whether that be the Transit Village. Those would be the areas that we would look to recoup the loss of these units. but also it may not, I mean, we're already, actually, I don't even know. We said if it was 50 units, you're talking about 10, we're carrying 9. So it would be extremely minimal. Yeah, I mean, we're talking a potential, yeah, because we're carrying those 9 from the third round as bonus. There should not, the impact of the plan would be negligible. I mean, you could, a couple of units to be added, I think could be done fairly easily.
Would you have to go back to fair share, and the mediator and say, we tweak this plan now, we've taken this, and then we have to go through this process again, or how?
Well, it depends. If we look at, sorry, the screen locked. I didn't get a chance to, give me just 1 second. I can answer this question extremely quickly, once I pull up the analysis.
Is the property part of the redevelopment?
Yes. Okay. Let's do that.
Take a minute to, yeah.
Choice, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. We're going to take a 5-minute recess so that we can, get our ducks in a row here and get the Okay, back on the record. Mr. Levitt, what did you find?
So the Rite Aid site was included in the analysis. We had tentatively identified a density of 25 units per acre at that site, 20% affordable yield for a total of 13 units, affordable units rounded up. So to exclude that site, you're carrying 9. So there would need to be 4 units applied elsewhere across either the redevelopment area or Ernst Road or some other mechanism. There are not many sites that I see in the Transit Village that could accommodate additional units. There's an area, so the shopping center is currently identified at 30 units per acre. Gowan Street, we had identified that whole area around Gowan Street was also identified at 30 units an acre. That if people want to increase density within the transit village and not push those units elsewhere, then certainly that's a possibility.
think something probably beyond the scope of what we're doing right now. And I would recommend that you can, report back to your client, launch a video of this, that, the planning board is, really have no interest in your client's property as, for the actual use of the floor housing. And in the future, we can perhaps work on some, perhaps a minor amendment to the housing and fair share.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, if we approve this, it has to go to or it does go to the council for approval, correct?
For endorsement, but it's really this board's document.
And we're adopting this document simply to reflect that it is compliant with the goals and objectives of the master plan and for the reasons stated in draft resolution, right?
Correct.
My apologies. If the obligation is 240 units and according to table 19, the satisfaction to fourth round RDP obligation, the total is 277 units being provided. We're 37 units above. We're talking 13 units. I don't see the exclusion of that having a material effect at all. My apologies for not looking at that more closely, but I don't see the 13 being dropped, at least from a numbers perspective. To your point from before, I'd still need to look at the mediation agreement. And if the mediation agreement needs to be revised as a result of that, then that's another concern as well. So.
In other words, you think the mediation agreement may have recognized, and one of the provisions is that we're going to have this credit going into the next round because we're going to.
Potentially, I can look for that. We can take another recess and I can look for that as well. But yeah, from a pure numbers perspective, we're providing, 37 above. The borough's providing 37 above the 240.
And this is part of the Raritan Street Transit Village, correct?
Yes.
So you look at the mediation agreement. It talks about, the subject property to be declared an area in need of redevelopment by resolution of the Borough Council after completion of the preliminary investigation and recommendation by the planning board by March 15th. So the way I read that is they're gonna declare an area of redevelopment if the recommendation tonight is, and if you find that there is ample, as you've indicated, additional units that can be addressed and this property can be excluded. My sense is you can make the recommendation to adopt the plan excluding this property. And that way, that recommendation that you're making then goes to the township for adoption.
It may have been before my time, but I don't think that this property has actually even been the subject of a study, has it been not the subject of a study by the planning board. So, there are many, many places to remove it. But yeah, I don't even think, has the planning board been tasked yet with, so the planning board hasn't even been tasked yet with doing an investigation as to whether.
So study hasn't even been done.
Yeah, so the entire process hasn't even been done.
Yeah, that's coming directly from the mediation agreement. And then the borough shall adopt the redevelopment plan consistent with the density set forth herein by September 30th. So you have time, 2026.
Okay, so I have the mediation agreement and it shows a fourth round total of 245.5 units. So they cut some of the, this also needs to be reviewed as well. But they cut some of the bonus credits that were being taken. So to that end, losing those units would fall short of the 240.
I think this is obviously, you know, that's probably the main reasons, you know, not to have this property been ordinance before, but, you know, I don't think this is the time for him to move it, especially with the deadline so close in product mediation between the Borough and Fair Share Housing Center. And as we go forward, we haven't even been directed by the council, the board hasn't been directed by the council to prepare a study, even look whether or not there's an area that meets the criteria under local redevelopment housing law to be an area in need of redevelopment. So I think there was a better opportunity at that time to more closely focus on the individual properties and have I think it's would be, you know,
Reno.
Sierra planner.
Right.
Take a closer look as to which properties may be less suitable than some others to be part of that redevelopment area. But I don't think the answer right now is to remove it from the housing update share plan or to give some kind of binding statement, especially because we would like to send a clean resolution back to court as part of the adopting resolutions, implementing ordinances and resolutions. At least I assume Joe will send a clean resolution back.
Yeah.
So I think that you've got the sense of what the board thinks about that property. You obviously can report that decline. I know it's not exactly what you want to hear. You can show them this video. If the board seems to be showing no interest in that being developed for housing. Probably best to work closely with the borough and especially Sierra, maybe put you in touch with Sierra redevelopment agency for Sayreville to get that property excluded from the redevelopment.
Yeah.
The mediation agreement additionally, I just took a look at it, includes the accessory apartment program. So, I mean, this is kind of the challenge with the fourth round in general, is that everyone's building the plane as we're flying it. And this is not unheard of. I mean, even in the third round, there were settlement agreements that were never amended, even though plans were amended going forward. So, I mean, it's very likely that either the mediation agreement will need to be amended or the mediation agreement, you know, aspects of it won't be relevant because the borough isn't doing an accessory apartment program. It's in fact using other compliance mechanisms to meet that obligation. Ernst & Road is not on it. So, you know, Alex, I agree with you that, you know, I think the best course of action is to, you know, have a clean resolution, adopt the plan as is, with the understanding that this site may very well not be, you know, suitable and can be excluded later as part of the redevelopment study. Having it excluded from the redevelopment study, you know, through Sarah may make the most sense going forward, and you know, we can take a look at exactly how those units can get made up elsewhere. But I agree that trying to, as you can see, the challenge that we're all having here of trying to amend a plan on the fly, I don't think is feasible.
Yeah, and I think just for our purposes as well, and your purposes as well, this mediation agreement, I tend to agree, needs to be amended because I don't think you're going to make your timeline required by the mediation agreement to do your redevelopment plan and the study. That's March 15th. It's now March 4th. My request would be, request for the tenant would be, if that's the case and that has to be amended, can this plan be amended at the same time to exclude this property? It is listed there as part of one of the properties in that Raritan Street Village parcel. If that can be excluded with this amendment, that I think solves everybody's problem. And I think an amendment would probably have to be done sooner than later because you're going to miss this deadline.
Can't speak for attorney. Every aspect of litigation. So I have no idea whether or not we're going to get a referral or then, or what's going to happen. But I think, certainly we discuss it with, the council, and obviously your firm is the one doing the plan. So, going forward, if a change is needed, and, instead of rushing it, I still think the better option. If a change is going to happen, I don't see why that would be a problem, but I can't be the one to make that decision. Dan can't be the one to make that decision. And really the planning board on its own shouldn't be the one to make that decision, without discussion, with the council, or at least with some back with the council. But I don't, if it has to, if the mediation agreement has to be amended, or there has to be an order extending time or something to that effect, that may very well be excellent method of understanding.
Well,
I can't speak for the council. I can't speak for the for this affordable housing attorney / borough attorney. And we may want to discuss after this meeting. You guys and myself and Joe Sorgillo, as well as bring Vina Savant, the Sierra redevelopment plan in as well. But I don't think we can give you absolute certainty you want at this meeting.
well,
Yeah.
we would appreciate that. And I think Mr. Prime has his card as well. If we could set something up sooner than later, that would be helpful because the process will start on the planning side, obviously with you for the planning board for the application as it comes forward. And the only thing we would ask tonight is if, you're going to adopt this resolution, that something be placed in the record that we were here and that we've asked to be excluded. And that's something that, however you council wants to phrase it, I think you phrased it is pretty well to recognize that this property may be the subject of exclusion, or however you want to phrase it, or that we've requested it and it's under,
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, well, one person that I think absolutely has to weigh in is the special adjudicator. Beth is extraordinarily reasonable.
work
And
with Beth. Well, I know Beth. Yep.
yeah, so I think just simply asking her a question, what should we do? How do we go about this? And get guidance from her because she's got the most direct connection to the program. And once we get input from her, we'll know, I think, exactly, how to handle this.
Very good. Well, we appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
So are we able to pass a resolution along the lines that Mr. Burns suggested, just noting that this,
I mean, it is part of the record. Yeah. Everything that based on everything that the board stated here, it's all part of the record of the public hearing for the board's consideration of the amended housing on the fair share. So I think you can adopt the resolution for you, of course, with correction as to the county.
Yeah.
I incorrectly put county on it. That happens.
That's okay.
And I think that can adopt it as it's otherwise.
and the objections will be
They're all noted in the record.
noted in the record? Okay.
Yeah, motion closed up.
Okay. Is there a motion to close to the public? Motion. Second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Okay, so is there a motion regarding the resolution to adopt the amendment to the fourth round housing element fair share plan?
No, it would, it's, the resolution I've prepared is, it just, it does not mention that. It just, talks about how you, heard professional planning testimony, and from the public, and that, the amended housing element fair share plan is consistent with those objectives of the county master plan. And you're adopting. And what we've all heard today is part of the record. You don't have to specifically call it out.
So there's a resolution adopting, it would be a resolution adopting the plan, the amendment. It wouldn't say it in the resolution, but we know that there's an objection here regarding a piece of the plan, a property that's in the plan. And that, my understanding is that the attorneys for the property owner is going to try to work with our redevelopment council and I guess the fair share, the special adjudicator
Borough attorney.
to try to, and the borough attorney to try to resolve that issue. But nothing that we do here in passing this is going to definitively force that property into a redevelopment situation. There's going to be a separate redevelopment process.
Yeah.
And we're not going to hamstring the property owner by approving this plan because we're simply approving it that it complies with the master plan and it promotes the public welfare and good, et cetera.
Yeah, that's where you're at now.
Okay.
All right, motion to accept the amended housing plan.
Second.
Do a roll call. Mr. Candell?
Yeah.
Ms. Larmen?
Yes.
Mr. Mueller?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Ms. Sataka? Mr. Velosan? Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Council President Zabrowski?
Yes.
Thank you. It's been approved.
All right. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is old business, new business, administrative matters. Our next meeting is March 18th. Justin, we don't have anything forthcoming. So we could take a motion to cancel the March 18th meeting.
Is there a motion to cancel? All in favor? All opposed?
Our next meeting will be canceled. The following meeting after that, I believe, is April 4th. Off my thing, but we'll see at that point.
So nothing on currently for April 4th? Okay.
So we have to open up to the public again.
Okay, motion to open to the public?
All in
Okay.
favor?
Anyone from the public like to be heard by the planning board? Seeing no one, motion to close. Is there a motion to close to the public? Is there a second? All in favor? Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn? Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, everybody have a great night. Thank you.